welcome to the Personal PR Show, to another episode of the Personal PR Show. And today we're here with Mark from Germany, who's a TEDx organizer. This is going to be so exciting. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hi all over the world. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jessica, that you pushed me towards this interview a little bit, because usually I'm used to be more in the background of organizing things and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm happy to answer all your questions, and yeah, let's see what the next 40 minutes will bring.
That's so cool. Thank you so much for making the time. You're super, super busy because you have 10,000 different things to do in so many different domains. So we're very, very grateful that you managed to find an hour for us, for the audience of the Personal PR Show. Thank you. Awesome. So are you in Germany today?
Yes, I'm in Stuttgart, Germany, south of Germany. And yeah, here it's sunny, but cold.
Sunny but cold, exactly. Here it's cold and it's rainy. So I'm happy that at least you get the sun.
Perfect.
In Stuttgart, right? That's so cool. By the way, I already see a TEDx book, a TED book next to you.
Exactly. Yes. That belongs. I prepared some props and some stuff. Actually, that's the original T-shirt from our first event in 2012. These are some props. That's a cubit from a speaker of us, our Stuttgart lanyard, and our booklet. The special thing about the book is every speaker we put on stage, we send them the book to prepare from Chris Anderson to really get read into the strategies and tactics on how to present at their best abilities. Of course, we coach them as well, but that they have something that they can appreciate as well from us as a team.
Okay, we have a technical problem. Okay, you're back. You froze for a second, but now you're back.
Oh,
that is awesome.
okay.
Yes, well, thank you for showing us all of these lovely objects that you had created just for your TEDxStuttgart, right? So you made, you had used just for your event?
Of course, we have the team T-shirts for the team. We have the book that we send out to the speakers if it's not was aired through the glitch. We have the lanyard. Every guest of our audience gets a lanyard, of course, from the city of Stuttgart. And we encourage our speakers to use also props that they can show, or if they describe a special thing, that they can do this with also to not celebrate, but to entertain the audience as well. Yes.
That's true. And by the way, you and I met at a TEDx event, didn't we?
Exactly. Yes, that was 2015 in Zurich. Wonderful event. I looked it up before, I have to maybe say that it's an honor that I speak to you today, but I am only a very, very tiny bit of the huge TEDx universe, because behind me there's a whole team. I only was co-founder. Actually, Stuttgart is a very small, compact team. There are bigger events like TEDx Zurich the last years. They have a big team, like compared to Stuttgart, we have like 15 to 20 people, core people, and maybe a handful of volunteers sometimes. Zurich has or had in the back then like 50 people core team and 80 volunteers or something like that. So Stuttgart is a very small and compact team. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So I guess that some of you, or a lot of you, have to have different roles, right? So probably there's not a lot of specialization, like you have to maybe cover more than one hat.
Yes, exactly. Especially as a co-founder, I was in almost every direction of what it can go, because in the beginning, in 2012, TED or TEDx was not as well known as today, and it grew better over the years, but in the beginning it was very small, very hard to do that, and we had to explain a lot what TED or TEDx actually really is. And just to step in here, in Stuttgart we do an evening event. That means from roughly 6 to 10 p.m. With about 10 speakers plus minus, and with catering, a networking break, and try to keep it familiar in size. So not the biggest event, but also not the smallest.
The smallest either. Okay, that's so cool. And by the way, you said that you are the co-founder of TEDx Zurich. You're not just the organizer, but even the co-founder. So
Yes.
how about we go a few steps back and you tell us who you are, where you're from. We know that you're from Germany, but maybe a little bit of your story, your personal and professional story, and what led you to, co-found TEDx Stuttgart.
Yes.
Yeah, how about that?
Okay. I have to go way back. Actually, let's say it this way. I was a very shy introvert in the beginning. I did an apprenticeship as a salesman, so that was back then seen as a from my parents as well, but I wanted it as well from as a basic education in general for your life, so you have something to build on. But that was not enough for me. So after that, I learned to handle humans. I say humorously sometimes, but it is awesome to learn to talk to people, and I think that made me curious. After that, I went to a different school that enabled me to study. I choose a major to study that had an engineering major that had integrated renewable energies as real subject, not just as a interest lesson or something like that, but as a real part of the study. And after that, I was fascinated by renewable energies or photovoltaics in general back then. And I made my way into photovoltaics. That was cool, absolutely. I experienced the uprising of the photovoltaic movement in Europe, but also the downturn, the political, which was not nice as an employee, so to speak. And but after my studies, so before I experienced the photovoltaic thing, in the last year, I saw a notice at the bulletin board at my university that was shortly after all courses ended, and I thought, hey, cool, I just read what's written there, and there was a little sheet of paper, search for team, TEDx Stuttgart, please message here. And I took my best school English back then and wrote a 2-page motivational letter.
Wow.
Why I want to do that, how I want to do that, whatsoever. And back came 3 words. Hey, let's drink a beer. Okay, in German, so in my native language. Okay, cool. So that was a German guy, Martin, and there was another one, and we were the only the 3 first ones. To actually found this on a December 28th, 8 o'clock in the morning at the notary, 2011. So that's the funny story behind that. We also have, there's also another one, Dirk, he's the licensee of TEDx Stuttgart, because that's another glitch of TED, I would say that. You are only allowed to be a licensee if you live in the city that you promote. So if it's TEDx Stuttgart, you have to live in Stuttgart. I live just at the border outside of Stuttgart, so I'm not allowed to be the licensee. But so my colleague Dirk is the licensee, and I'm co-founder of TEDx Stuttgart, but with a whole team behind me, of course.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is such a funny story. And so it started only with the 2 of you in just a super spontaneous and casual way and informal way as well.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And and then so you have been holding TEDx events in Stuttgart for 10 years or 11 years even.
Yes. Right. Actually, that was our 12th event. And we're going to organize the 13th event, because we had some once we had 2 events a year, so the numbers are a little bit mixed up, but we try to organize 1 event every year. as said, we had 2 events in 1 year, but the challenge is real if you have a small team and you are all volunteers and you concentrate on the event being really cool, but then your focus change if you have too much to do for 2 events. And we also, in 1 year, we did TEDx salons, which are smaller events. So you don't have the big organization you need for a big event, but still you have to do 3 events in a row in 1 year if you ask for the TEDx salon license. So you have a lot of distractions, and so we keep sticking for 1 event in 1 year. Yes.
Oh my God, it's amazing. So let's say, okay, you've done it for 11 years, and let's say you have an average of 10 speakers per year. So it's about 110 speakers that have spoken on your stage thus far, more or less, roughly, of course. So let's say, so you have selected 111 speakers, but how many have you, let's say, looked into? Because I'm sure there were many candidates and many applicants as well. People that just wanted to speak on your stage and just applied, or maybe people that you wanted to invite as well, people that you maybe knew from other, circles, and you thought, okay, they could actually make a good speaker. So you had those in mind as well. So altogether, how many people have you, so to say, interviewed in order to get to these 110 speakers that then, did speak on your stage?
Hundreds. Maybe not interviewed, but we get a lot of, as you say, there are several different. I have to start earlier. There are several different ways to get on the stage of a TEDx event. The thing is, so we have teams, and our speaker team is responsible for the applications. We don't have a fixed application process, but we have some questions on our website that you can answer and send your suggestion or recommendation also to us as a team. But then we will discuss this in the speaker team and also in the normal team, in the group, and then come back to you if your idea is interesting. And if it's interesting enough, we do an interview just like we do now, so to speak. And so that's the process. So we got hundreds of applications. If we had 100 speakers, maybe we had 300, 200, 300 real interviews. Roughly about that.
Oh my God, wow, that's so much work. Just that in itself is enough work for a whole year. Wow.
That's the case, absolutely.
Thank God you have a team, so you can split the work a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
So when you evaluate an idea that was proposed by an applicant, what are the criteria that you keep in mind?
So we have I would say, split it in 2 parts. So we have the TEDx criteria and we have our own criteria. Starting with the TEDx criteria. TED stands for Technology Entertainment Design. So, and they require us to 1 second. They require us to name a topic of the event to them as early as possible, as soon as we apply for the next license. So each license is valid for 1 year. So every after event, we have to apply for the license for next year. So as soon as we apply, we have to name some topic of the event, even if we don't have speakers. That's a little bit of a challenge. So the speakers should have an original idea. It should strive the topic of the evening, but it's very broad, so it's usually not that difficult. And it should be original, scientific, non-religious, scientific based. And it should not, or it must not be marketing or selling from the stage. So that's absolutely forbidden.
Thank God.
You can do it, of course, in other ways. And you can also, as a speaker, you can use your TEDx video afterwards as marketing for yourself. But on the stage, you are not allowed to do any selling. So that's the TEDx criteria roughly. And then we have our own criteria from TEDxStuttgart. We aim for that. We are not successful every year, but we try to have 50-50 men, women, also diverse. Sometimes we try to 50-50 English, German, because we had a lot of students in the beginning. Now it's more broad, and TED also says, do it in your local language. Okay, so last time we had only German talks, which was not really intended, but if we put an English speaker, an English native or English speaker on stage, we try to make sure that he is a native speaker, and that things doesn't happen as much as it. For example, me personally, I'm not an English native, but sometimes I forget the words, and that doesn't happen. We try to keep them in their native language. Right. So and yeah, so these two criteria, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. So have these criteria, your own criteria, always been the same criteria, or have they shifted through the years, through these 11 years?
I think they have developed a bit, but it was clear from the beginning that we wanted to have in other words, that we don't want to have an IT conference where everyone is the same, everyone talks about the same, and everyone knows the same. So it should be as diverse as possible. And that's the good thing about TED or TEDx in general. You have a very objective, very open-minded audience, conference in general, and the networking with TEDx is really perfect, because there you find people similar to you, probably. And yeah, that's why I also encourage other people to go to different TEDx's and see how they do it, because as I say, I'm just a tiny little bit of the TEDx universe. Other locations, other cities, other teams, other stories, other histories. So they might be totally different. And also what I have to say in terms of, if you apply as a speaker, we might not choose you, but maybe another TEDx organizer would, because you have a different connection to them. They value your story or your topic more because of the geographical part or whatsoever. So don't give up if you get a rejection from one TEDx. On the other side, I don't recommend sending out applications, the same application to all TEDx around you. So that's not good as well. But yeah, if you get rejected, don't give up easily.
Yeah, that's cool. By the way, I have the next question already ready.
Yes, sure.
I see that we have a question from the audience. So let's have a look, and then I'll ask you my question. Okay, so
sure.
Okay, Gigi says, even in your native language, people forget words. I think it was just a joke. Yes, we forget words. I also forget words in Italian. Yes, but anyway, maybe in a foreign language you forget even more, right? Exactly.
Sure, that's correct, and I can say something to that as well, because we calm down our speakers at the event and even before at the rehearsals, because we have a whole video cutting team. So if you forget words in your native language as well, there's absolutely no issue about it. We can cut the scenes out and it will be a nice talk afterwards. So don't worry about that. I think every more professional TEDx will offer that as well. So don't worry about that at all.
That is awesome. So Gigi,
yes.
You can relax. Okay, awesome.
I think so, yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so the next question that I wanted to ask you, Mark, is, we said that the criteria that you have when you evaluate an application are not the same criteria that another TEDx organizer will have, right? Especially from other TEDx chapters, so to say. But in order to conquer your heart, let's say, what would be the perfect application? Maybe 3 items that will really, really stand out to you.
Okay, so of course we had some hints on our homepage, but the things that are most important for me personally, but that is very individual. I want to underline that. If you have something to do with Stuttgart, that would be perfect, because as a TEDx Stuttgart, we are looking for regional speakers or for regional topics. That regional must not be Stuttgart city itself, but it should have, your topic should have something to do with Stuttgart, or your location, or your background, or your scientific project, or something has to do with Stuttgart, so to speak. The other one is we are often lacking technology topics. So we get a lot of, let's say, like 50 applications each year from coaches with Chaka, you can do that topics. These are fine. These are mostly soft topics, but we want to have a diverse conference, and we are a very technical engineering city. So art and coaching is perfectly fine. And if you have your story, go for it. But we search for, innovation, technical topics, and that is definitely a point. And the other thing, I think I wanted to mention it later, but I encourage girls and women to apply, even if they think they are not good enough, or you don't need to be as confident as Bill Gates on the TED stage, but you need to be passionate about your topic, and then talk to the organizers and see if they are passionate, or if you can motivate them to like your topic or your talk, and they should help you as well. So we see that it is very difficult to get women on stage, and that's why I think I would choose that as a third point. Yes.
This is amazing, and this connects us to what I'm seeing in chat, because Gigi is texting us all the time. I'm seeing it here on my phone. She says, by the way, that it is a fear of hers to forget words. Okay, that's why she brought it up. And she's like, oh, loving the tips and insights. And now going back, like connecting Gigi to what you have just said, the criteria that would really stand out to you in an application. I would say that Gigi has two. This was not prepared. I didn't even know that Gigi would show up at this, at this interview. But I know that Gigi is a woman. Okay, number one, she's a woman. And number two, she is an innovation consultant for digital healthcare. Right? Cool. So Gigi, if you have a connection to Stuttgart, let Mark know, because the two criteria number 2 and 3, you already have. Right? Exactly. Right. I don't know. Maybe Gigi, you can reach out to Mark on Facebook. She can DM you, right?
Absolutely. Either on Facebook or on LinkedIn if you are. And I also, if TEDx Zurich, for example, is nearer to your place, or go to TED.com, click on attend, and there you find a world map of all the registered events coming up in the next year or so. And there you can find a city nearby, and you can choose a city nearby and just write to the organizers and ask. For Stuttgart, and I think we are not the only one, we try to prepare our speakers. So of course your topic has to be chosen. So if your topic gets a green light, then you should get coaching. So we have speaker coaches in our team that give you hints, tips and tricks about how to speak, how to breathe sometimes, how to not forget words maybe. And we also have 2 rehearsals before the event. So a few weeks before the event, and then shortly before the event, where we can test your status quo, what you have until then. And we give you tips and tricks as well, how to optimize that. So that should be included, I think, from my standpoint. So I think if you contact a TEDx around the world, they should help you as a speaker.
Oh, that is amazing. Wow. And Gigi is super excited about this, Mark. She's writing, wow, thank you so much. Great tips. Wow. She's on fire, Gigi. Gigi, go and apply, because I think that she's
yes.
pretty cool. Innovation for digital healthcare. It could be something cool, especially with all of the wearables these days. I'm a biohacker. I've been into biohacking for 10 years. I have all the possible wearables that you can imagine. So when I talk to Gigi, we always have, you know, interesting conversations, and, you know, she knows very which let's say the next devices, the next wearables for biohacking are going to come on the market next year, for example. So she knows stuff in advance, like all of these trends and so on, what is coming up. So it's always interesting to talk to her. But anyway, Gigi, okay, so you know what to do. Mark gave you very actionable advice. So keep us posted how it goes. We might see you on a TEDx stage next year. Yes, but going back to you, Mark. So you've had roughly 110 speakers on your stage thus far. So what was the one that really, let's say the one that really stood out to you and stood out to other people as well, the most memorable one, I would say? Difficult, right?
That's a very difficult that's a very difficult question, because as we are a small team, as we were a small team in the beginning, and of course a lot of suggestion came also from the team, so from us, and a lot of suggestions are also very personal. So I had connections to a few of them, ex-professors or people from during studies or from travels or from projects. So this is very personal, and I can't really say who stood out. Let me ask me later about that. I will think about it.
Yeah, you think about it. Okay, cool. Should I ask you another question?
Yes.
Okay, but by the way, I hear some feedback. Let me try. It's gone now. Okay, cool. So the next question was, it's rather about the behind the scenes, right? So I heard, because I have a friend who's the TEDx organizer of TEDx, the organizer of TEDx Bern here in Zurich, here in Switzerland. And he says that once a year, there is a conference for TEDx organizers, where you organizers TEDx, you all get together. And I don't know, he told me prior to COVID that it was offline, like the conference was in person. I don't know now if it has changed, but might we ask you, what happens at these gatherings? It should be so cool to be there.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you know, I think you were not, but a few months ago, we have a very committed organizer from TEDx Munich, Dora, and she managed the last TEDx organizer meeting in Munich in Germany. And a few months ago, she invited from the mostly German-speaking countries around the organizers, and made an event only for Organiser. And that was it was the first time for me as well. The other ones my colleagues were visiting, but years before. But this one is just crazy, because you have a lot of self-minded people. No, people like you, committed and wholeheartedly committed to TEDx and to this networking opportunity. And this is a totally different spirit than I encourage everyone to visit the TEDx. As a visitor, as an audience, it's nice, it's wonderful. You see all the glitches you don't see in the videos later. You see the great organization. You can talk to the team, but having an event for only organizers, that's a totally different spirit, a totally different level of energy. And yeah, if you as an organizer can do that, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. But people might ask, so what is the commitment in terms of time that you need? So let's talk about you for a second. So how many hours do you work on the TEDx conference, TEDxStuttgart conference of the year per week? So for example, now you're probably working on the issue like edition of 2023. And I imagine that it's not always the same amount of time, because prior to the conference, probably you have even more to do. So but let's say on average during the whole year, how many hours per week do you dedicate to this?
That's very difficult to say because our last event was in early September. And afterwards, we of course have some weeks to prepare the videos. That is a really hard and long process until the video gets out of the speakers. So that it's, yeah, a lot of people don't see this work behind that. They think you just go to an event and oops, there are the videos. That's not the case. But after the videos are online, at least for TEDxStuttgart, everyone falls in a little hole. So end of the year, Christmas, all that stuff. And we really begin to organize the next year, usually in December, December, January, where we focus on the next event.
Right.
Yeah, and hours per week, it's difficult to say because the different teams have different deadlines. Of course, graphics should be in the early beginning and shortly before the event. We have marketing throughout the whole time. We should present something on social media. We have the speakers, of course. If applications come in, you have to answer or at least look into them and let them know, yeah, maybe you get an answer in 1 or 2 weeks or so, maybe longer. But as we do that all voluntary, depends on many things, but maybe a few hours per week. So it's not much, actually. Sometimes it can be much, but I think if you don't do it for the hours, if you are committed and if you are in the team, you like the event and the format. And I think if you do, at least personally, I speak for myself now, I hope for all the others too, if you are there and if some week it's 5 hours, it's fine. If some week is only 1 hour, also fine. But I wouldn't fix it on the hours. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Oh my God. So guys, see, it's not too much time. It's just maybe you have to be constant. So to say consistent, it's not that you just work 2 months before the event and then during the rest of the year, you don't do anything, right? So it's like a constant engagement. It's more or less and so on, but it's not going to, completely change your life. It's still feasible. You can still reconcile it with your personal life, with your professional life and so on, right?
Right.
Okay.
Of course, other people like sponsoring have a harder job. Or social media with a constant thing, and they have more work to do. I think all in all, it's doable. It's doable, but you have really decide to do it. So yes, so it's not easy every time. There are also hard times, and you have to check back with your colleagues and with the team a lot. But I think it's worth it. If you see what you get out of it after an event, through contacts, through people, through speakers as well, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So you must have got so much out of these 11 years at TEDxStuttgart. So what is the thing that, I don't know, like the from a networking perspective, because on this channel, we also talk about super connecting, strategic networking, relationship building, and so on. What's the craziest contact, craziest connection that you made with somebody through TEDxStuttgart?
Craziest connection? I wouldn't do the craziest connection from the audience, maybe, but I got a lot of experiences, I think, through bringing speakers in or knowing speakers already and then get them to know deeper during the process. And I like that very much. Just for example, this here is one of the founders of the internet, so to speak. It's a very cool guy that talked about quantum computers. And that was his prop. So one of his props. So that's kind of, you meet exciting people there. And you have a special connection because you are a TEDx organizer and you are not something who wants to sell something, but you support them in bringing their message out. Yes. And I think that is a whole different level of what you can be for someone and how they know you. Instead, if you go to another networking event, you usually talk about yourself and what your work is. And therefore, I think TEDx has a very high quality for networking purposes, because especially as an organizer or team member in general, you have something to talk about that is objective, and that's very easy to talk about and to like.
Yes. Oh my God, I love this. And I would also like to acknowledge TEDx, the whole circuit, not only for networking, which is great, but also for being such a, how can I say, such a perfect example of thought leadership. Because so one of the things that I do within personal PR is thought leadership. So I help people build their thought leadership. And I see this with one-on-one clients, or in my mastermind as well, the Thought Leaders Mastermind. So the bedrock of your thought leadership is actually your breakthrough idea. So first of all, we want to find your breakthrough idea, and then, codify your intellectual property and all that stuff. So, and when we are working on a breakthrough idea, I see that some people come up with pitches instead. And pitches, they usually are, let's say they have a commercial nature, like a business nature. They want to sell something. And I'm like, no. Your breakthrough idea is rather, it's not a pitch. It's rather, let's say, a universal principle, right? And in order for them to understand, I have to make an analogy. And I say, okay, imagine yourself on a TEDx stage, right? You wouldn't, bring up this pitch, right? No. Okay. How would you talk about your breakthrough idea if you were on a TEDx stage, right? Take yourself outside of the equation. It's not like, oh, I am this person and I do this. No. You don't even talk about yourself. You talk about the idea. You talk about the principle, right? Exactly. And then when I make this analogy, they get it. So thank you, TEDx. So people can really understand what thought leadership is.
Absolutely. For that, or for starters, for beginners, I would recommend still the classic Simon Sinek Golden Circle. I think that's the thing to start when you try to apply for a TEDx stage, that you talk about the why first before you do your selling pitch. But of course, we in our audience, as well as amongst our speakers, we have a lot of teachers, coaches, business consultants, publishers as well. So that's really a wide variety of audience that you can connect to, and therefore definitely good for networking and for thought leadership, because there you find people interesting people maybe interested in your ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it goes both ways. Oh my God, Mark, this is amazing. Let me check the comments. Okay, we have no questions right now. We have hi viewers, but we have no specific questions right now. But I do have one last question before we say goodbye, because unfortunately we're approaching the end of our chat.
Holy. Yes.
Yeah, right. Look at the time, I was like, what? Already 40 minutes, but 40 minutes into this conversation, I thought it was like 25 minutes. It's been so cool. So my last question is a question that I actually ask every single speaker, every single guest that I have here on the Personal PR Show. It's always the same question, but the answers are always very different. So let's hear what your answer is. So what is a question that I haven't asked you, but I should have asked you?
I think, and I would love to want from you as well. What is your favorite TED Talk or TEDx talk? Doesn't matter.
Oh my God, thank you so much for asking. Oh my God, there's so many that I love. But I would say Simon Sinek, the one by him, the first one. Of course, I've watched it many times.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, exactly. And then I really liked, of course, this is a classic, I'm sorry, but I really liked Brene Brown's TED talk. Yes. And of course. And by the way, by the way, a client of mine, I have a few clients who've had, you know, TEDx talks, and I have one in England who's had 3, thus far 3 TEDx talks in England. By the way, I would like to create a panel for, let's say, in the next few months on a personal PR show with a TEDx organizer, and her name is Lizzie. She's given 3 TEDx talks. Would you like to come on this panel with her?
Of course, for sure. Yes. I saw her live and it was really, really good. So I can recommend that as well.
Yeah.
So if the audience hasn't seen that, check back.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll do that maybe in January or so. And we'll have this panel, you know, with a triple TEDx speaker and a TEDx organizer with 11 years of experience. This is going to be so cool. Yes. And by the way, another client who's actually in the States, she's about to get, I'm not going to name names, of course, but she's about to get a proper, like a TED talk. Right.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I'll make announcements as soon as it's finalized. But yeah, that's going to be cool.
Right.
Yes. And of course, then another one that I like is Amy Cuddy's talk. I mean, the classic, because these are the ones that you watch many times. I think one time just to watch, it's like something that you have to watch once a quarter, I would say. Are there any TEDx talks that you also watch over and over again, like regularly every few months? Yeah.
Yes, actually, yes. My second place is Benjamin Sunder, The Transformative Power of Classical Music. So this is I'm a very technical and logical and engineering mind, but my most loved talks are very emotional, soft, empathetic. And this is Benjamin Sunder. He's very, very emotional, this talk, and very basic, but it blows your mind. It really is crazy cool. So you have to do it. Even if you don't like classical music, watch it. Definitely. And my first place is Philippe Petit, The Journey Across the High Wire walker from the Twin Towers in New York.
I saw that one.
It has some very, 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 very basic learnings.
Yeah.
But I think they are so essential for a happy and successful life. And he packs that in a wonderful, beautiful story set, and how he presents that. And don't watch these talks in double speed. I usually save time if on YouTube or so, but don't do it. Original speed, loud, full screen, and then Benjamin Sunder and Philippe Petit, and you are ready to go.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So please, guys, watch these 2 TEDx talks, and normal speed, please. And let us know. You can drop it here in the comments of this post.
Yes,
so
please.
Let us think, yes. And then, of course, because you are tagged in this post, and I think you will get notified automatically as well. So then, guys, if you want, then you can have a conversation about it. Yes, I'm sure that Mark will reply. Right, Mark?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
That's awesome. This is so cool. I loved your question. Because you asked me a question, which gave me the opportunity to ask you a question. So we had a dialogue about our favorite TEDx or TED Talks. This is so cool. Thank you so much, Mark. This has been so much fun. And you will be back on the show very soon, right? So we will do a little panel with you and Lizzie.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and bye everybody. I will see you next time. I think tomorrow we have another episode of the Personal PR Show, and yes, and Mark very soon again in January or so. Thank you, everybody, and thank you especially to you, Mark. Take care.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.